Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's opening bell. We have a special guest today. We have Mr. Petr Koblic. He is the chairman and the CEO of the Prague Stock Exchange, as well as the president of the Federation of European Security Exchanges. Mr. Koblic, good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for this interview, and thank you very much for participating. I wanted to talk to you about the situation in the European markets, what you're feeling regarding the markets from your position as the president of the FESE. And after that, we can talk about the Prague Stock Exchange, how things work there regarding market capitalization, number of investors and IPOs. And as well, in the end, if we can touch some ideas about what feedback you have for us, for Bucharest Stock Exchange, and what is the feeling in Prague about the what might be the biggest IPO in 2023 in Eastern Europe, the IPO of Hydroelectrica, a Romanian company. Let's start with your feeling in 2023 regarding the markets. How do you see things nowadays?
First of all, again, good morning, and thank you very much for inviting me. I would probably not like to speak so much about what I see on the markets as if the market's going to go up or down, or what's going to be the volume. We are rather on the stock exchanges. We don't do investment recommendations, so we don't speak extensively about the price development on the markets. We rather see a global picture, and would like to see a global picture as far as number of the listed securities and volumes, and maybe shifts of the volumes between the market and off-market venues. So what I do see on the market, probably a little bit comment on the market quality. Yes, I can imagine that the sentiment of the availability of the market for further IPOs and for market transaction is returning. Of course, we have been in a difficult situation last year where very few transactions were actually happening on the market. Because of the war in Ukraine, the market were so-called closed. Basically, investors haven't been ready to purchase big IPOs on the market, and the banks haven't been delivering those IPOs to the market and big transactions. I think that situation could change, and hopefully will change this year. So we could see a moderately better situation in a short-coming future. As far as the volumes, we definitely do hope that volumes will return to the market as well. Obviously, especially on some smaller markets, the volumes are depressed. That's what we see on other markets as well. Especially commodity markets are very much depressed volume, especially the electricity market and gas market. It is partly because of uncertainty of where the price is going to go, and also because of the risk management consideration of the institutions who are normally active on the markets. From the pan-European perspective, we would like to see more volume returning to the lit markets, to exchanges. Unfortunately, that is probably not going to happen. There is a long-term move for liquidity to go outside of the organized markets, outside of the lit markets, to the bank books, basically. We heavily criticize that as the European Federation of Exchanges, because we think that there are added values of transaction being executed on the transparent and lit venues, and that the transaction which are executed in the bank books as the systemic internalizers or in some kind of dark pools are deteriorating the quality of the price making in the European Union. So we hope that this shift will stop someday, or we and we are doing whatever we could to try to convince the respective regulators and policymakers to try to shift the markets back to the lit market. We, as Europe, we are the most fragmented market in the world. Most of the volume is happening off exchanges, and I think that was the major reason was the false implementation of the MiFIDs, MiFID 1 and MiFID 2, which we heavily criticized. So that's maybe the situation on the pan-European markets and the volumes as we see it. And specifically on my home market in Prague, I think it is very much copying the European development. We are classified as an emerging market, not as a developed market, but as emerging market. So we are very much influenced by the situation which is happening on other emerging markets. Obviously, the major story on our market is now same as in Romania, but completely different direction. Is what is going to happen with our biggest issuer, and this is a company called CEZ, which is the biggest energy utility in Czech Republic, biggest producer of the energy, where there are some voices and interest from the majority shareholder, which is government, to maybe split the company into two and have 100% ownership of 1/2 of that in order to finish some of the nuclear projects, which if done in a not well thought through way, that could have a harmful effect on the capital market. If it's done correct way, it should be basically neutral to the market, but we are very much in a contact with the respective people and convincing them that they should really care about the way how they execute this transaction. So this is I think.
What is the first reaction of the investors regarding the split?
I would say mixed. There are some investors who see the opportunity of the partial buyout, from the government, and they see opportunity to stockpile the portfolios with the stocks and later on being bought. And at the same time, they are heavily criticizing the transaction, as rumors were already out, how the transaction should happen, that it should be uneven split of the capital. That's a legal explanation, which many of the investors heavily criticized. I would say more vocal are domestic investors, various family offices who have definitely certain positions in the security, rather than international investors who've seen probably many things already, who've seen they seen split of the utility companies in Germany, so they have certain confidence that it will be done in a proper way, so that they are not maybe so much nervous as some of the local huge family offices who are playing a kind of PR game already against the government.
We are also a emerging market, secondary emerging market, and last year we had a record of daily turnover around 20 million euros. What's the situation in Prague? For instance, here in Bucharest, we have the majority of the liquidity in stocks, in equity. On the second place, bonds, and after that, other products. We don't have commodities yet.
Right. So our volume is in equities only, average volume for last year, roughly 30 million euro per day,
per day?
and it's equities only. Look, bonds are not usually so much traded. We have many bonds. We also own a center securities registry, so we have all those bonds within our system. But the bonds are not so actively traded. I would say there are very few markets in the world where bonds are traded on some kind of organized system. Usually, bonds are traded by the banks and institutional investors as a bilateral trade, the same way as interest rate swaps are traded, because it's basically the same instrument. So it is rather tradition that the bonds are traded OTC. Of course, there is some volume happening on the market, but it is rather volume where smaller investors try to show their interest in some of the bond issues and try to provoke some liquidity in the order book system. But so far, the liquidity in the order book is very, very small. There are some initiatives from some of the smaller banks to start market making in some of the bonds on the system. I'm on the market 30 years. I actually started back in 90s as a bond trader, in one of the institutions. So I know the bottlenecks which are there. I would be we are supporting that heavily, but I would be rather surprised if that initiative will provoke some substantial bond turnover on our market. Speaking about commodities, we do trade commodities from our daughter company, which is a joint venture between us and Deutsche Börse. It's called PXE. This is the biggest electricity platform or electricity exchange in CEE. We trade, I believe, 14 countries, including Romanian electricity, on our screens, and the liquidity was growing till year 2021, heavily growing. Unfortunately, the energy crisis linked with Russian aggression took most of the liquidity from the energy markets. And if there is any liquidity, then it's only on the most liquid contracts, which are German contracts. So the liquidity on the peripheral market, unfortunately, dropped dramatically. So I think, and it's slowly returning back, but very slowly returning back. So we're gonna have some curve of the increase of the liquidity in the following 1 or 2 years, but we are not tremendously optimistic that we are going to be back at 2020, which was the highest volume traded on the PXE. It will take few years.
Regarding the liquidity, we have around 130,000 investors currently at the Bucharest Stock Exchange. What's the situation in Prague?
In Prague, the number of the investors is definitely active investors is definitely smaller. It's in tens of thousands. What we have to understand for Prague market is that we had the history of the venture privatization back in the 90s. So there are probably tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of shareholders in some of the stocks. But I would not go so far to call them investors. They are rather shareholders for 30 years. They are sitting on their few shares and doing nothing with that. So active investors, our estimate is somewhere between 50 and 100,000. We don't have exact number because that's in the hands of our members. Of course, Prague market have certain advantage because since 1993, it is together with a Polish and Hungarian market kind of anchor and cornerstone of emerging markets in Europe. So all the US, UK, simply international pension funds who are active in emerging markets are active on the Czech market, Polish market, and Hungarian market already since 30 years. So sort of in our case, it's not necessary to introduce Czech market among the traded or trading community or investment community abroad. We are on the map since 30 years, which is probably a little bit different situation with Romania, where Romania was a long time frontier market, which is obviously much more junior market classification. So for you and your market participants now, it would be a important thing to introduce Romanian market to the emerging market funds, which start to invest now, and for them it's basically a new market. It's a challenge, but also opportunity, of course, because there could be new accounts which would start to look at Romanian market, and if they are well approached, they will definitely invest.
You're also on the FTSE and Morgan Stanley list, the Prague Stock Exchange.
The Prague Stock Exchange. Excuse me, which list?
FTSE Russell, and Morgan Stanley.
Well, if you take it, there are 4 major major index providers in the world. There's MSCI, who is probably the most important for emerging markets. Then there is stocks of Deutsche Börse. Then there is FTSE, and there is Standard & Poor's S&P, which is probably least important for the emerging market. So the classification of Prague and Czech Republic is basically same in all of those. We are emerging market status. We have been promoted for developed market status in a stocks index a couple of years ago, and now we are again emerging market. We are fluctuating between developed and emerging market in a stocks index, while some of the Czech stocks are already implemented in the pan-European indices. But in the more important indexes like MSCI and FTSE, we are as emerging market classified.
And two more questions, Mr. Koblic, regarding the listing of Hydroelectrica. What is the feeling also in Prague, and also why not in Vienna, because you're a member of the board of Vienna Stock Exchange?
I would say it is a great achievement for Romanian market that Romania is doing such a big sell. I would not call it directly privatization, but basically it is a market privatization, and it's executed on the Romanian market. I am not the person who would advocate for some kind of foreign markets. I think it was a wise decision from the Romanian government to focus on the Bucharest Stock Exchange, because the investors will definitely find these stocks, then they will buy it, even if it's traded only on a Bucharest Stock Exchange. So anyway, Hydroelectrica probably going to be traded on some of the platforms elsewhere in Europe in the future, but for time being, it was a good decision to list it in Bucharest and promote the market among the investors. And I believe it's going to be successful. Well, I would say the support of the domestic market is important, and I would say the decision to list Hydroelectrica just in Bucharest is, from the point of view of development of the market and from the standpoint of the government, is actually a good decision, because it would support the domestic market, attract international investors. Hydroelectrica is definitely a very good company. In the recent energy crisis, the water generation of electricity is very valuable. So I think it's going to be successful transaction executed on the domestic market.
And one more question, the last question, Mr. Koblic. What feedback do you have for us for Bucharest Stock Exchange? How we can develop and maybe get this year or next year the liquidity of Prague, 30 million euros only on stocks, equities?
I think it's not going to be so difficult with Hydroelectrica listing. I would, it's going to be a showcase for maybe potential further privatizations. If it's going to be successful transaction, definitely the investment bankers and the management of the stock exchange can speak with the government, maybe to have some other companies also privatized through the exchange, and that would be. We know all that was the major fuel which was moving Warsaw Stock Exchange ahead. For years, yes. Privatizations through the market were something which was definitely moving the market further on and developing the market. So I think if Romanian market would go in this footprints, it's definitely a good way to go. And hand in hand, there should be also activity on the private companies. It's a big pity that Romania, or actually whole Europe, doesn't have was not successful in convincing probably the biggest European or Eastern European IPO ever, which was UiPath, which was happening in 2021 on Nasdaq. So I think that discussion with those guys for dual listing on the home market, as I consider Bucharest, is their home market, would be definitely a wise thing to do as well. And I don't know how many of the similar companies, probably smaller companies, but progressive companies you have on the market, the transaction or government transaction and privatization will definitely provoke the interest, and some of the private companies can sail the wave of the interest to the Romanian market, and it would be a very wise thing and a very good thing for the capital market.
Sail the way. We're going to conclude with this idea, this positive idea. Maybe we even stand a chance to beat Allegro IPO with Hydroelectrica for being the biggest offer in Eastern Europe. The numbers, from what we can see, are there. Thank you very much, Mr. Petr Koblic. Thank you for this interview. It was a great pleasure having you.
Thank you for inviting me, and take care.
Thank you everyone for watching this interview. Until next time, have a great day.
Știu ce spun.
Un ultimatum pentru Zelenski. Occidentul îl ajută până în toamnă, după care trebuie să negocieze pacea. De ce nu discutăm mâine? Toți soldații ca carne de tun până în toamnă ca să mai jucăm o fisă?
Știu ce te interesează.
Bogații lumii poluează pentru că își permit să plătească răul pe care îl fac, o spune Bill Gates.
Este un handicapat.
Cred cu siguranță.
Știu cum să te fac curios.
Război în masă. Veganii și vegetarianii și-au făcut aplicația lor de dating. Până la urmă, e mult mai comod o astfel de relație.
Știu cum să te emoționezi.
Întâlnirile cu prietenii și familia sunt motivul pentru care zâmbim în fiecare zi.
Dar nu trebuie să-ți legi fericirea de exterior.
Știu să convin.
Vă dau jucării noi, le promite Putin soldaților de pe front, arme nucleare. Cât de nebun să fii să te gândești că te-ar ataca NATO, dar intra în Sankt Petersburg să facă ce cu el? Gândește că și alții sunt nebuni ca el.
Știu să câștig.
De ce te super, Nemo? Am aliați mai buni.
Hai, Nemo.
Știu, deci știi.